friends and family members know about the Show Up for Your Life motivational movement. And so here's what I want to talk to you about tonight. And tonight's message is called Stop Pretending. Stop pretending. And the reason why I say that is because, let me tell you, at one point or another, many of us begin to pretend. You know, we pretend to want to go after our goals and our dreams. We pretend to want to go after our new career goal. We pretend to want to lose the weight. We pretend to want to get out of debt. We pretend that we want to finally get uncomfortable and do something extraordinary with our lives. And so it was George Bell who said this. He said that you can pretend to care, but he said that you can pretend to care, but you cannot pretend to show up. And I believe that many of us are playing the pretend game. We're pretending to care about our goals and our dreams. We're pretending to want to lose the weight once and for all. We're pretending to want to write the book. We're pretending to want to go back to school and get the education. And the reason why I say we're pretending is because we find ourselves having a whole lot of great conversation, but we haven't been willing to follow it with action. We haven't been willing to show up. And that's why I think what George Bell said was so profound when he said that, listen, you can pretend to care. In other words, you can pretend to have a bunch of great conversation. You can pretend to want to get out of debt. You can pretend to want to lose the weight. You can pretend to want to start the business. You can actually pretend to want to go back to school. You can pretend that you have gotten over your past disappointments and your past failures. But ultimately, there's something that you cannot pretend to do. And that thing is you cannot pretend to show up, because showing up is an action. It's something that you have to do. And so, you know what? When it comes to actually showing up, you can't just go ahead and rest on your conversation. You can no longer just rest on all the great excuses that you're making. And so as I look back and I reflect in my personal life and I think about the only reason why I'm able to do what I do today, the only reason why I can say that, you know, I feel that I'm living in my purpose, the reason why I'm able to use my voice to inspire people, to use my voice, to be able to help people to get past their disappointments and failures, to be able to help people to come up with what their signature story is and being able to leverage their story so that they can have more impact and do this thing that I believe that I've been called to do, is because I got past the pretending stage. And I've got to be honest with you, there was a moment that I was pretending. And the time that I was pretending was probably the last year and a half that I was still in corporate America. And here's what I mean by pretending. You see, I was showing up every day to my job and trying to keep a smile on my face and trying to maintain a positive attitude. All the while, even when I was performing my job and trying to, act like I was, a great employee to my managers on my team and the other people who are there. And even though I did my absolute best to perform, on the inside, there was a part of me that was always saying, you know what, there's got to be more than this. On the inside, there was a part of me that really was not fully content. On the inside, there was a part of me that knew that the way that I was showing up in the job was not congruent with what I really truly desired in my life. So to be quite honest with you, I played the game. I just continued to pretend. And so I would pretend by getting up every day and showing up to work and trying to maintain a positive attitude. I would pretend by making sure that I stayed a little late in the evening to do my work. I would pretend by making sure that I was having engaging conversations with my colleagues. All the while on the inside, there was this friction. All the while on the inside, there was this turmoil because there was something on the inside that was saying, Andy, there's got to be more than this. And maybe perhaps you know what it's like to pretend, to play the game, right? And to pretend that you're content when you're showing up to this job, when you know that that something inside of you is saying that there's got to be more. Or maybe you've gotten very good at pretending through conversation. In other words, you can talk a good game with the absolute best of them. That's right. Now, you know what? When you get around other dreamers and believers and entrepreneurs and people who are making things happen, you start talking about your goals and your dreams. You start pretending to be serious about stepping out on your goals and your dreams. You start pretending to be serious about maybe perhaps going down a new career path. You begin to pretend to be serious about losing the weight or getting out of debt or doing that thing that you've been wanting to do, that you've been meaning to do, but all the while you know that you're simply pretending. And the reason why you know that you're pretending, because now it has been months, literally 6 months, 7 months, and maybe even perhaps years, and you've been having the exact same conversation. And so I remember one of the main reasons why I decided to do something radical back in 2004. When really I didn't quite know exactly what my game plan was, and I decided anyway to turn in my letter of resignation. Part of the thing that made me realize that it was time to do that was because I remember showing up to my job, and at that point I had been working there for about 3 years. And I remember that there were some people who were talking to me late night at the client site, and they would talk to me about their dreams, their goals and aspirations outside of the accounting profession. And they would tell me, some of them would tell me that they always wanted to open up a restaurant, or some of them would tell me that they always wanted to open up their own business. And what I realized is that every single year they were having the exact same conversation, but they hadn't taken any steps whatsoever to make that dream, that idea, that vision become a reality. And so what I realized is that they were playing a very sick game with themselves. You see, they were pretending to be serious about their goals and their dreams. They were pretending to want more out of life. They were pretending to see a life for themselves beyond this corporate job that they were working that was no longer fulfilling to them. And so they were simply pretending. And maybe perhaps you know what that's like, to just have a conversation, and the conversation sounds great. The conversation about how you're finally going to get out there again, even though you were hurt in the past, and you're going to get out there again, and you're going to find people to date and have a fulfilling relationship. The conversation you've been having about, starting a business, or the conversation you've been having about taking your business to the next level, or the conversation that you've been having about working on your different skills and developing those skills so that you can have greater impact and so that you can finally do what you think you've been called to do. Those conversations without action really simply means that you're simply pretending. You're pretending to be serious. You're pretending to want more out of life. You're pretending to want to initiate some level of change. And so ultimately, you judge yourself and you judge those around you, not by the things that they talk about, but you judge them based off of the fruit that they produce in their life. In other words, you judge them based off of what are they making happen? What are they acting towards? What are they moving towards? And so there becomes a time that after a while that your conversation is just not enough. As a matter of fact, your conversation is starting to turn into what is called a joke. Your conversation is really starting to be one of those things that it's just a strange, delusional game that you're playing with yourself, because those around you are starting to come to the realization that you're having a whole lot of conversation and you're really not doing anything. And it can happen to the absolute best of us. And I'm telling you, I did a great job of pretending for about 1.5 years. I pretended that I was content. I pretended that I was happy. I pretended that there wasn't something else that I felt that I needed to pursue. And maybe perhaps you know what that's like. And it begins to feel inside as if you're almost a fraud. You're starting to feel like, you know what, I'm a fraud. Why? Because I'm showing up and trying to keep a smile on my face, but yet and still I know that there's something else that I've been called to do, and I'm still not acting on it. I'm having great conversation about it, but I'm just not acting on it. I'm just not making it happen. And so at some point, you got to have a reality check. And at some point, you have to be willing to make the decision yourself that you're going to just stop pretending. I mean, just stop playing the game. I have 2 friends of mine, a couple, and I mean, I love them to death. I mean, they're just a great couple, and we love spending time with them. And one of the ways that I love spending time with them was that we love going out to dinner. And they crack me up because every single time we go out to dinner and they order something that is perhaps unhealthy, like they order, a burger, or they order some wings, or they order some pizza, or they order some French fries. As soon as they place the order, they follow the order. And I don't know if they're saying it for me, or I don't know if they're saying it for themselves. But as soon as they're done placing the order, they say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I enjoy this burger. I'm going to enjoy this pizza. Or I'm going to go ahead and enjoy these French fries because, starting tomorrow, everything's going to change. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to be on my health kick. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to make sure that I'm no longer eating, fried food or this fattening food. And I'm thinking about this, and literally these friends of mine have been having the same conversation for the past 3 years. And so tomorrow, tomorrow has taken 3 years to happen. And so what I've come to the realization is that they're pretending. And what there is that they're pretending to be serious about changing their health regimen. They're pretending. And what I realize, it's not that they're not capable of it, but it's just that they don't really have a true desire to do a significant change right now. And so I've come to the realization that this conversation that they have is really just maybe perhaps to make them feel better, or maybe perhaps they know that they're in the company of other people. And so it's just something that they say. And so there are some signs and some symptoms and when you are pretending, and I want to make sure that I help you to see some of those signs. And so here are some of the signs when you're pretending. When you're pretending, you do a whole lot of talking without following it with any valid action. That's one of the signs that you're pretending. And so if there's a particular area in your life in which you've been doing a whole lot of talking, I'm talking about a lot of talking about writing the book, a lot of talking about starting the business, a lot of talking about getting to the next position in your direct sales company, a lot of talking about getting out of debt, a lot of talking about whatever it is, but you haven't followed that talking with action, that is a sure tell sign that you are caught up in the pretend phase of your life. And so you are doing nothing but simply fooling yourself. You're not fooling anybody else around you. You are only simply fooling yourself. That is one of the first signs that you are absolutely pretending to want to create a shift and want to create a change in your life. That's one of the first signs. Now, here's another sign that you are pretending. When you find yourself feeling guilty, and out of guilt, you're making excuses. And so in other words, you're feeling guilty because you know that you're not doing the things that you need to do to start the new career, to get the business off the ground, to enter a fulfilling relationship, to lose the weight, to get out of debt. And so because of that guilt, you try to go ahead and mask the guilt by coming up with some great and elaborate excuses. And so what you find is that you begin to make excuses in order to go ahead and really mask the guilt that you're feeling on the inside. Here's another sign that you're caught up in the pretending phase. Another part of the pretending phase is when you begin to give excuses that were not even solicited. In other words, no one even asked you for the excuse. So no one even asked you, why are you eating that burger? No one even asked you, well, why aren't you writing your book? No one even asked you, well, why haven't you started the business? And then you yourself making it your own personal choice to make sure that without the person even asking you, you feel like you have to go ahead and throw an excuse out there. So you're sitting down at dinner and nobody really cares about why you decide to order a burger and some French fries. And now all of a sudden you're putting it out there. Oh, well, I'm just ordering these burgers and fries because starting tomorrow I'm going to sell my health. Well, listen, no one asked you why you order burgers and fries. No one really cares. But you decided that you're going to go ahead and throw an excuse out there anyway. And part of the reasons why you're doing that is because on the inside, there's some internal conflict. And the conflict lies between what it is that you want to happen in your life and what it is that you're currently doing. And so what you've come to the realization is that you say that you want something, but you're not acting and doing something that is congruent with what you say that you want. And because of that, you don't feel good about it. And because you don't feel good about it, you decide that you know what? I've got to throw an excuse out there so I can help myself to feel a little better. But at the end of the day, guess what? Those excuses are doing absolutely nothing for you. And so at some point, you have to be willing to stop pretending. Here's one of the last things that I want to share with you. That's another sign of when you're pretending. When you are pretending, you want absolutely no accountability. And so in other words, when you tell somebody, hey, you know what, I want to go ahead and start the business, and they say, well, listen, I want to hold you accountable. What do you need to do? All of a sudden, you back out and you hide away from being held accountable. All right. This is the person that says, you know what, I want to go ahead and write the book. And somebody says, well, what's your deadline for writing the book? And then so you back out of giving a deadline. And so you tell somebody, I want to quit smoking. And they say, well, listen, when do you want to quit smoking by so I could go ahead and hold you accountable? And the first thing you do is you begin to backpedal. And so the big sign of somebody who is simply pretending, people who are pretending do not want to be held accountable. In other words, they don't want an accountability partner. They don't want anyone who's going to check them on what they say. People who are serious about realizing their goals and their dreams, people who are serious about getting to the next level, they put something out there and they want to be held accountable because they understand the accountability is going to have them have to act. And so I tell you, years ago, over 5 years ago, when I decided to do this Thursday night Show Up for Your Life motivational call, I remember literally filming a quick video and putting it out there on social media and letting people know that I was going to start this motivational call every single Thursday. And I knew that by putting the video out there and setting a date, that now I was being held accountable by hundreds of people. And if I didn't follow through, then what it was going to mean is that I was not a man of my word. And so when you're serious about getting things done, you want to be held accountable. But when you are simply pretending, guess what? You do not want to be held accountable. And one of the last signs of when you are simply pretending, people who are pretending, they find ways to hide out whenever it's time to make a decision. And so, you know what? As for me, as a speaker, as a coach, I get to see that all the time. So let me tell you what I mean by that. People who say, you know what, Andy, I want to go ahead and join one of your coaching programs. Or Andy, you know what, I want to participate in the next one of your live events, right? And so they put it out there that, you know what, I want help. I want assistance. I want to go to the next level. And then when it's time for them to make a decision, guess what? They disappear. They enter the witness protection program. And so they're visible as long as they don't have to make a decision. They're visible as long as they don't have to act. But now that it's time for them to act, now that there is an event for them to sign up for, now that there is an opportunity for them to join the coaching program, now that there is an opportunity, see, they're fine with saying, hey, I want to come to your next event when they know the next event is a year off. They're fine with saying, hey, I want to be a part of your coaching program when they know that the coaching program opens up again in another 6 months. But now that it's time to act, they hide out, they disappear. And so it's a perfect example. If you find yourself hiding out when it's time for you to act, if you find yourself hiding out when it's time for you to make a decision, then chances are you're simply pretending. And George Bell said this. He said, you know what? You can pretend to care all you want. You can pretend to have these great conversations. But at the end of the day, you cannot pretend to show up. Because showing up requires some level of action. Showing up requires that you're going to actually have to do something. Showing up means that you're going to have to pull the trigger. It means that you're going to have to book a flight, swipe your credit card, read the book, show up to the gym, cut up some credit cards, begin the budget, get out there and start taking care of yourself. Get out there and allow yourself to be vulnerable again and start dating and put yourself out there and put things out there knowing that it may be criticized, knowing that it may not be perfect. But when you decide to show up, you're going to have to put yourself out there. You're going to have to stick your neck out, as they say. But you see, many people are pretending. They're hiding behind great conversations and they're hiding behind all the excuses. And so my question for you is, are you ready to step out? Are you ready to show up? Or are you going to just keep pretending to be serious about your goals and your dreams? Are you going to keep pretending to want to go ahead and do whatever it is that you've been set out to do? I don't know what that thing is for you, but you know what it is. You know what it is that you've been wanting to do, that you've been meaning to do, that you literally have been putting off, and you simply have been pretending. You've been playing the game. And so no one has held you accountable because you're not allowing anyone to hold you accountable. You're not taking any action. And so you're satisfied and you have developed a habit of just having a bunch of great conversation without following that conversation with any type of action. But you don't understand that ultimately your habits are going to form your destiny. And what you're doing is every single time you form a habit of just making excuses and not taking action, you're avoiding your destiny. And so what I'm saying is that now you got to get uncomfortable. And part of getting uncomfortable means that you got to stop hiding out. You got to stop pretending. You got to exercise some level of discipline and start doing what it is that you said that you're going to do. Jim Rohn said that we must all suffer from one of two pains in life. He said the pain of discipline, the discipline of getting up and going to the gym, the discipline of writing the book, the discipline of applying for this new career, the discipline of going back to school, the discipline of cutting up the credit cards and submitting to a budget, the discipline of getting the knowledge and stretching yourself and growing so that you can get to the next level. We must all suffer from one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. He said, but the difference is discipline weighs ounces. It's light. Once you get adjusted, you develop a new habit. It's light. But he said that regret weighs tons. And you see, the people who are pretending, they're subscribing, giving themselves literally a prescription to go ahead and suffer from the second pain, the pain of regret. Because they're going to look back at their life and they're going to say to themselves, what if? What if I would have not been pretending? What if I would have decided to write the book? What if I would have actually gone after this new career path? What if I would have started the business? What if I would have gotten out of debt? What if I decided to go ahead and open my heart again and be susceptible again? What if? That's painful. And so ultimately, you got to make a decision. Are you gonna exercise some discipline? Or are you gonna have to deal with this ongoing regret? And so I'm inviting you right now to stop pretending, because you're really not fooling anyone. And we've all done it. I've pretended, and I've got to catch myself when periodically, if I start having too many conversations about something without actually taking action. Because that's normally a sure tell sign that you're starting to get into that pretend zone. And so I'm inviting you right now to stop pretending and start being very serious about mapping out a game plan and beginning to take some action. And I'm asking you to take action right now on your goals and your dreams. And it may even start off with just being something very small. I don't know what that is for you. It might just mean making a phone call. It might mean that the moment you get done with listening to this message, you start jumping up and down and running in place and doing some jumping jacks and doing some push-ups on the floor. It may even mean that you got to go ahead and open up your fridge and pour out all the junk and throw away all the garbage in your fridge. It may mean that you got to pick up the phone and say sorry to somebody. It may mean that you got to sign up for a coaching. It may mean that you got to purchase a book. I don't know what it means for you, but what I'm saying is you've got to do something that's going to move you towards your goals and your dreams, that's going to move you towards this thing that you've been wanting to do so that you can go beyond conversation, and you've got to leave the excuses behind so that you can finally show up. Because George Bell said this, you got to pick or choose. You got to pick or choose. He said, listen, you can pretend to care and make it sound real good, having great conversation, or coming up with some fantastic excuses. But one thing that you cannot do is you cannot pretend to show up, because there'll be eyes on you. When you show up, your actions begin to speak for themselves. When you show up, people can look on and they can actually see the fruit of what you said that you're going to do. And so I'm inviting you right now to just examine your own personal life. Socrates said that an unexamined life is not worth living. And I want you to look at your life, and I want you to think about some of the symptoms that I told you are symptoms when someone is potentially pretending. And I want you to simply make a decision right now that you're no longer going to pretend, and that you're going to start taking action, and you're going to start moving forward. And this wouldn't be Andy Henriquez if I didn't end by telling you this. Show up for your lives, ladies and gentlemen, because if you don't, if you don't, nobody else will. All right. I'm telling you, I just love that quote by George Bell when he said that you can pretend to care, but you surely can't pretend to show up. And so I'm hoping that you're going to begin to show up in just completely different ways. Now, for those of you who are tuning in right now, there's something that I want you to get your hands on. If you haven't already done so, I want you to get a hands on my book. It's Show Up for Your Life, 7 Principles to Living an Extraordinary Life. And so if your life has really slipped into sort of neutral, or you've put yourself really in park and maybe perhaps you're in that mediocrity zone, and you know that there's more to life than what you're doing right now, and you want to go from living an ordinary life to living an extraordinary life. Or maybe perhaps you are where I was at one point, where I was working a job, and even though it was a great company, that every single day I was internally saying, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. There's got to be more. And yet and still, I wasn't moving forward. I wasn't showing up. And so if you know that you can take your life to the next level, or you have a desire to take your life to the next level, you want to get your hands on this book. And so I want to tell you how you can do that real quick. All you got to do is go to showupforyourlifebook.com. You're going to go to showupforyourlifebook.com. Or if you love purchasing your items on Amazon, you can get the book on Amazon, or you can get it at Barnes & Noble's online as well. But either way, just get your hands on the book. I've been getting some tremendous reviews. I'm so grateful. People saying, hey, it's been a while since I read a book from the front cover to the back, and I got through your book, and it's been so inspiring and uplifting and so forth. And I want you to get a copy of this book. So go to showupforyourlifebook.com and make sure that you get your copy of this phenomenal book that I believe is really going to transform your life. The other thing is that I want to share, as many of you know, I'm a storytelling coach. I help people who know that they have a story, but are looking to be able to produce greater results with their story. And so whether they are working a job, or they are people who are seeking to become professional speakers, or coaches, or maybe they're entrepreneurs and they want to find a way to leverage their story so that they can have more influence, so that they can be able to attract more customers and more clients, so that they can have more impact on their audience. And so it's very rare that I do this small, intimate, one-day storytelling intensive. And I'm going to be doing one in Fort Lauderdale, Florida on June 25th, which is the last Saturday of this month. And if you would like to get the details, and someone from our office will call you within 48 hours of you filling out a very quick, very simple application to get the details, so you can make a quick decision as to whether or not this is something that you want to be a part of. You're going to go to storywithandy.com. Once again, that is storywithandy.com. When you get there, just go ahead and fill out the application real quick, and someone from our office will contact you to really give you the details on what's entailed for you to be able to participate and join us on June 25th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for the one-day storytelling intensive. Now, I want to remind you that I keep these trainings as small and intimate, and so we have very limited seats available. So if you believe that this is a training that you'd like to participate in, you want to make sure that right away you fill out that application, so that we can contact you and give you the details, so that you can see if you are able to secure your seat and join us. And of course, last but not least, I know this has been a one-way dialogue, and of course I want to hear from all of you. And so we are going to open up the lines, but before we do so, I want to remind you too that we have a Facebook group. And so if you want, you can get to our Facebook group in one of two ways, and this will be our way to sort of connect and interact. If you're in Facebook already, you can simply type in Show Up For Your Life. You're going to find a closed group. You can go ahead and put a request in to join the group, and we will gladly accept your request to join the group. We'll be happy for you to join us. Or if you want a shortcut to get to our group, you can open up a separate web browser and just simply type in showupgroup.com, showupgroup.com. And that'll give you a shortcut to get over to our private Facebook page. And that's where we sort of continue this conversation that we're having right now. So like we always do, for those of you that may have any questions, comments, or feedback, I'll stick around as long as you have any questions, comments, or feedback from today's message. We're going to go ahead and open up the conference call line.